the United States wants war with Iran, and here's why. In the 1970s, President Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard because we were printing more money than we actually had gold. And since the American dollar wasn't backed by gold, we had to find a way to back it some way, somehow, some shape, some form. So Nixon negotiated the OPEC petrodollar. So Nixon made sure that all Middle Eastern countries would trade oil based on the perception of the US dollar, which really didn't exist. You see, with the help of Middle Eastern countries, this is why we were able to remain the global reserve currency for so long, despite the fact that the US dollar is pretty much worthless. If you don't believe me, just look at our deficit. So we needed to reassure that American currency would always be traded through oil in order for us to make money, in order for us to be successful. Best way to be successful is to be an imperial state and control everything through war, through destruction, through power, through manipulation. Perfect example was President George W. Bush when he sent us to Iraq because he thought that they had weapons of mass destruction. Well, he knew that they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. It was just a way to invade Iraq because he felt Saddam Hussein was going to be a threat to our global currency market. So Iran is pretty much doing the same thing that Iraq was doing before, except now China is backing Iran because China wants to be the global currency holder, because if they were able to gain that power, then they become the next superpower, which they're already on the verge of. And if you don't believe me, just look at Trump's words. Every time he speaks bad about China, it's because of this reason alone. See, China is actually one of our closest allies. 99% of the stuff that you buy from Amazon comes from China. Trump knows it, he sees it, but he continues to speak as if China is one of our greatest adversaries. In a way, he's kind of right, because if they were to gain the global control over oil, then they would claim global control over our money, over US currency, and therefore the US dollar wouldn't be as profitable. It wouldn't be what it is today. This is why China and Russia will never act as far as war is concerned, because they know how big our military is. They want to become the global reserve of currency because they want oil, but they know that we have a stranglehold over oil in the Middle East. So as of right now, China is trying to create a global currency monopoly over the Middle East. And so that's why Trump is looking at China as one of our adversaries, even though they are our allies. But they are our adversaries at the same time. You know the old saying, keep your enemies close and keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Well, there you have it. Speaking of allies, this is where Israel comes into play, because Israel is trying to create this IMEC corridor, which goes through Saudi Arabia, and allows us to have access to a lot of the oil throughout the Middle East. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how you look at it, that road goes through Israel. So it's important that America needs an ally in the Middle East, and that's why America is so directly connected to Israel. Israel actually wants war, just like America wants war, because they know that war is profitable. You see, we fund a lot of this war in the Middle East through Israel, because Israel is one of our allies. We feed them money, they give us oil, and in return, they keep us the dominant global entity that we are in the world. So China is trying to get a hold of this. They're trying to grasp this, this trade that's going on between us and Israel. But we have a stranglehold over everything in the Middle East. This is why we have military everywhere in the world. This is why we have military all throughout the Middle East. It's because we have total and absolute control over everything. It just so happens that we have terrorists who try to stop what's going on. And here's the crazy thing too. Politicians love to use religion as a form of manipulation. They say, well, it's the Islamic fundamentalist that's trying to stop us in the Middle East. But we're there in the Middle East already. We've been there in the Middle East since for the past, I think, probably 70 years now, 80 years. We've been there in the Middle East. It's to compete with other countries, like Russia, like China, the upcoming superpowers that want to take dominance and control over the world. We want to remain the number one superpower, and the best way to do that is military. And it's no coincidence that we have the biggest military in the world, and we can manipulate anything, especially people in America. When it comes to religion is a great manipulation, especially when you throw a holy book at people and say this is the truth, and people believe all this nonsense. If people actually knew the truth of their existence, we wouldn't have a functional society today. Because the Bible, every holy book that's ever been written, is just another form of control. It's not real. It's just another form of control. It's just people have invested their time and their money and their effort and their life into a religion, into an idea that has benefited them and their life. But when you hear these politicians speak about whether it be Christianity or Jesus this or Jesus that, they don't believe anything, because they know the truth of our existence. They know when Trump speaks about Christianity, when he speaks about Jesus, he's just playing to his base. He doesn't believe in any of that. It's just another form of control. This is how we got a billionaire elected in this country, is through manipulation, through manipulating people. And here's the crazy thing too. Democrats, you don't hear anything. And this is not a Republican Democrat thing. Democrats have not said anything. They have remained quiet through all of this. And the reason why is because they know that this has to be done. They're not going to say anything because they're millionaires as well. They're multimillionaires as well. A lot of their stocks are in OPEC. Trump's every time Trump drops a bomb, it stops the terrorist from preventing the oil trade and the oil from coming over across seas, and therefore it's lining his pockets with billions and billions of more. This is why the number one country that has established dominance in OPEC is Saudi Arabia. This is why when Trump always speaks highly of Saudi Arabia and the prince, is because Saudi Arabia benefits from America's war, because they're essentially doing Saudi Arabia's dirty work. In return, we get cheap gas. Trump gets affordable gas. It lines his pockets. He makes another billion. Saudi Arabia makes another billion. And Israel makes another billion. And so all these countries are profiting from one single entity. And nobody nobody seems to see it. Everybody sees, oh yeah, this is a religious war, this has to do with politics. It doesn't have anything to do with religion or politics. It's all about money and power. It's what it's always been about. And America remaining the imperial state of dominance and control globally.